So I hope you are enjoying your October so far. But if you want to enjoy your October a little more and you like reading, I wanted to talk to you guys about some books that might enhance your October just a little bit more. So I know I've done this before in October where I discussed some kind of like spooky books that you guys might be interested in reading. These are some books that I have read within the last year that I really enjoyed or didn't really enjoy, but you guys might. A couple of them weren't like 100% like on my level. I don't know. But I don't know. I like recommending things or sharing with you guys what I've read because even if they weren't 100% my thing, you guys might like them. So first up, this one I read not too long ago is Five Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richards. This isn't like straight up horror. This is more suspense. This seems like something more I would have read in high school. So it follows a girl who's trying to get home. She's already been on one flight and there is a snowstorm that delays her next flight, totally cancels it actually. And she has met this other girl on her previous flight and decides to agree to drive the rest of the way, basically carpooling with this girl and these three other people that she doesn't know. And it just kind of follows their journey through this snowstorm, and there's a lot of suspicion because she doesn't know these four other people. And all this stuff starts happening, and there's this plot going on in the background with this person that has been stalking her, but she has no idea because there's just these letters that you get to read from this stalker to her. So there's kind of like that element too. It was an interesting read, but honestly, I wouldn't read it again. But I don't know, you guys might like it. It's suspenseful and kind of entertaining at times, but I don't know, the writing style just wasn't 100% my thing. Next up, we have The Haunting of Gillespie House. I'm not 100% sure how to say that. By Darcy Coates. I've seen more of these books on the shelf, and Darcy Coates seems to write a bunch of these haunting books. It seriously reminded me of when I watched Haunting of Hill House, and it just looks like all the books like that the one brother writes. Like his Darcy Coates, I'm not sure if it's a male or a female, their shelf at like bookstores looks just like his shelf on the show. But The Haunting of Gillespie House, it follows a girl who's house sitting for this couple that she knows, and this house is out in the country and it's kind of spooky, and I mean it's just kind of like a classic ghost story, like haunted house story. It wasn't like it wasn't an amazing book, but I mean there was a couple like creepy parts and you weren't completely sure the whole book if you were actually reading about a haunted house or if it could be explained away. So that was kind of interesting just to kind of get to the end and find out like was it really haunted or what am I reading? But yeah, it was just kind of a nice book to read, just kind of get you in the haunted house kind of mood. Next up we have Dolly by Susan Hill. Now this was just a very short audiobook that I listened to on Audible. I'm not sure if you can find a physical copy of it. It's just a very fast little like kind of creepy ghost story. Like you can almost see telling around like a campfire or at a sleepover. And it's about a guy who's just kind of telling a story from his past about a China doll and his cousin, and how this China doll that his cousin rejected when they were young kind of follows them through their life, and how it's almost like a curse gets placed on his cousin and him. And yeah, it was just kind of like an interesting little read, little listen. Next up, we have The Near Witch by V.E. Schwab. Now, I've seen a few books of his on the shelf at bookstores, and I kind of want to check out his other stuff. This book was interesting. His writing style was a little different than I'm used to. It feels like something I would have been more into in high school. But it was a very interesting novel. I read it very quickly, considering like how like the thickness of the book. Like, I read it very fast. It was very interesting. Takes place in like a village in probably I mean, I couldn't tell if it was like the 1500s or like the 1800s. Like, I couldn't get like a for sure feel of it. But very much like in a village that's afraid of witches and witchcraft. And they have an old ghost story, an old like urban legend about a witch that used to live there. And it follows this girl, and a new boy shows up in the village, and it's very mysterious. And yeah, it kind of delves into like witches and stuff a little bit, and ghosts, kind of ghost witches. So it's just kind of a fun little read that I think would be very like, it'd be very appropriate for October to read. Next up, we have Odd Thomas by Dean Koontz. This is, I feel like, a very well-known, famous book series. I had not read it until this year, and I loved it. I'm not sure if I'm going to pursue the rest of the series. My husband has read the entire series, and he liked it. But yeah, I really liked this book. It was really good. I had initially seen the movie years ago, starring Anton Yelchin. And the book was very good. It follows Odd, who, he can see dead people, and just kind of follows through his adventures through the paranormal world. It's very non-traditional, I will say that. It was not what I was expecting. So you get like the paranormal world and the seeing dead people and like all that, but you get some unexpected stuff too. And that's why I feel like it's a very good read for October. Next up, we have Whisper Down the Lane by Clay McLeod Chapman. This was another one that was recommended to me by my husband. I listened to it on Audible. It took a little for me to get into it first, but it was very good, and the payoff was very nice. It kind of centers around like satanic panic in the 80s, and it follows a teacher who had some trauma in his past, like in his childhood, and involving like a teacher and all the satanic panic and all that stuff. And then it goes back and forth between what's happening in his life and then what happened in his childhood. And there are some very genuine, like, creepy moments in the book, and I loved that. And yeah, it's very nice read for this time of year. I liked it a lot. I ended up liking it a lot more than I was expecting. Next up, I'm going to recommend The Exorcist. I read this for Banned Book Week, as you all know if you follow my channel. Like I said in that video, I listened to the audiobook, which I highly recommend because as an experience, the audiobook was just, it was good. If you're looking for a spooky time, I would definitely recommend listening to the audiobook of The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. Next up, we have Stir of Echoes by Richard Matheson. I am steadily becoming a very big fan of Richard Matheson. If you haven't heard of him or you think you know that name, it's probably because you've seen many of his movies. What Dreams May Come, Stir of Echoes, I Am Legend. There have been so many movies made off of this man's books. And the thing is that his books are so very different from his movies. well, the movies made off of his books. But the thing is, which is so weird because you don't usually find this in fiction to film, the books and the movies are both very different but both very good. And I found this in Stir of Echoes. I have grown up watching Stir of Echoes since it came out, and it's one of my favorite horror movies ever. I love this movie. It's usually on the 31 Days of Halloween or 31 Days of Horror list. And if it's not, I usually just watch it anyway because I love it so much. And finally this year, I listened to the Stir of Echoes book. And oh my god, like it was so good. And and it's an older novel. Most of Richard Matheson's novels are, I mean, quite old. But it's so good. And it's so different from the movie. Like, you have the bare bones, like, you have the foundation. Film and movie had the same foundation. But then they split off wildly. And I thought I was going to be disappointed, but the Stir of Echoes book is so good. And it has some genuinely just like creepy, but like I would listen to it as I was working out, and I wanted to just like stop and like curl in on myself and be like, what is going to happen? Like, moments. Like, it's awesome. So I definitely recommend reading Stir of Echoes by Richard Matheson. So finally, I want to talk about a series, and this is going to maybe sound a little weird because it's not a horror series. If anything, it's a true crime series, which, I mean, if you know me, I'm fully behind because I love true crime. But I will say this series does have some moments that are a little spooky and a little creepy. But overall, this series is just amazing. Like, I love this series so much. And honestly, I just wish there were more. But it's such a good series. And yes, if you like true crime and you like spooky, you need to check out Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. There are 3 books. Like I said, it is a trilogy, and it follows Stevie, who's huge into true crime, and she's trying to solve this case. It's a very famous case, the Ellingham case, and she gets to go to this school that's very like in the middle of nowhere and very select. Like, it doesn't have a very big population. They only take like certain students because those students have something special about them. Like, it has almost like a very like Harry Potter vibe about it, but like not, because there's no magic. It's all like true crime. Yeah, it's just, the characters are amazing. The writing is great. And you, at the end of every book, well, at the end of the first and the second book, like, you're like, okay, I know. I got this case figured out. I understand. But you don't. You have no idea. And, yeah, and then the last book is so good. And, yeah, it's just amazing writing and very good. And I think it'd be a great trilogy to read in the month of October if you're looking for, you know, like true crime and mystery and a little bit of spooky, and yeah. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you take me up on some of my book recommendations and enjoy yourself some good fiction this October. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these books and what you thought. And hit me up with some recommendations of your own. I mean, I'm not going to say no to any more spooky books. So, alright, I love you guys, and I will see you later.